Okay. Hello, everyone, again. While we cover materials, I wanted to show you something that actually this is a piece of knowledge that it doesn't matter whether you're in Blender, in Lens Studio, or Unity, or whatever. This is kind of like one of the fundamentals on materials. There is this thing called a matcap. Matcaps are images, just like the ones you see here on my screen right now. These are all called matcaps. So for example, I'll show you what a matcap looks like from close up. So it's basically just an image. It's kind of like a circular image. And this image contains a bunch of patterns. It's always a circle that kind of fills the screen completely. And if you look at the images, they're all square and they have in my case, they have these dimensions 1024 by 1024. You can also have find matcaps in 2048 and 4K and to much higher qualities than these. These are the ones I have for this tutorial. I'll be sharing a bunch of them. And matcaps are kind of cool. They save us a lot of work and they normally look good, and especially for real-time applications. They're super fast to render. They work really well in game engines and they give your stuff a kind of professional finish. Um, People who already have a bit of experience with matcaps, they can tell, when they see one, because matcaps don't react really well to moving lights, etc. But they're pretty good if your cameras are moving but your lights are not. They're a pretty good trick to make something look uh, good. I'll explain a bit of the kind of theory behind matcaps and why are they like they are. And then I'll build a little shader in Lens Studio that will allow you to use any matcap you come across on the internet within your Lens Studio project. All right, so I'll start a bit with the idea behind the matcap. So when I was younger and I used to do a lot of coding for graphics, these matcaps, they used to be called environment maps. And the idea behind an environment map is that within the image, it contains all the pixel colors that your eye can possibly see when looking at an object that is reflecting light. Now, that's quite a mouthful, but I'll show you a bit something that I think might give you a bit of an easier intuition. I'm pretty sure you know this image. This is Hand with a Reflecting Sphere by Escher. And if you think of you holding this perfectly reflective sphere, and you could trace a line that goes straight from your eye and into any point in this image, that eye would probably hit, in some of these points, it would hit the sphere and then bounce off the sphere, and as if it was like a billiard ball, a pool ball, it would go into another direction in the room. And this is basically what Escher draws here. So from the eye, for example, here the eye is in the center of the image, so the ray of light, let's imagine that a ray of light comes out of Escher's eye and it hits this reflective sphere. It would, if it hits the sphere directly in the center, then the ray of light will bounce right back at its source. But if it does so at one of the edges, it will bounce up in the room, and so as it hits different areas of the surface of the sphere, it will reflect, it will point away in different directions. This, when we are talking about 3D models, this is actually related to the idea of a vertex normal, which is what you see here in this image. So when you're in your 3D modeling software, there is something called a vertex or a face normal. And a normal is basically like a vector, is literally a vector that points from that vector away from the center of the object. And yeah, basically imagine that, so the angle between your eye and this normal is what determines where in the matcap the color pixel is going to come from. Again, that's pretty abstract, but one thing about normals is that it doesn't matter what object you're looking at. This is again a sphere. Let me see, for example, this is a teapot. All 3D objects, if they have the normals correctly set up, they will have a bunch of normals that will, and all the normals that you see in any object, uh, all the normals in a spherical object are also present in every other object. So any other object that we look at will have normals at an angle that can, and that angle can also be observed in a sphere. That's basically what I mean. That's what makes the sphere special. If we want to understand how light will bounce off any object, all we have to do is look at how it bounces off a sphere and then compare the point in the sphere that has the same angle as, for example, that other point here in this teapot, and then we can infer that the color there at that spot will be the same as the color in the sphere that has the corresponding angle. I think that this is a bit hard to explain with words, but yeah, that's in any case the general principle behind it, and I'll show you in a bit how this actually works in practice. Now, matcaps are, you can find tons of them free on the internet. There's this repository right here. This is in GitHub, and this is free open source matcaps, and there is literally hundreds of them. This is how they would look like when they are applied to to the same 3D model. In this case, some kind of cyborg head. But basically, this is the matcap applied to so the matcap image, this square image that I just discussed, as applied to this 3D model. And as you can see, it gives the entire thing the look of a kind of complex material, even though in fact deep down what's happening is that there is a single texture where the render is trying to find out the color of every pixel depending on the angle of incidence of light. So it's a pretty nifty trick to have, because all you need is one shader that is a generic matcap shader, and then you can apply it to any object, and all you need to do is change the matcap and you will completely change the look and feel of that object without having to tweak the materials endlessly. And there are, of course, a ton of matcaps for free on the internet. And you can also buy some if you are into that and you are doing more professional work. You might want to buy a library of really cool matcaps that you use all the time. But for our purposes, I'm just going to get them from this open repository. And as I said, you can use this technique also in Unity. You can use it in Blender. You can use it probably in Cinema 4D as well. This is really like, matcaps are one of the 3D fundamentals when it comes to materials, and it will work pretty much on anything that can have normals and shaders, which is these days is pretty much anything. So yeah, without for any further discussion on the generic theory, I'll take you step by step to Lens Studio to show you how to make one of these. All right. Okay. See you in the next video.